All right, hey everybody, welcome back for another stream of upgrading this. So I really haven't done that much off stream. So I'm maybe 4 hours into upgrading, refactoring, adding some tests. And again, the adding test is a bit contrived. I don't have to. The client doesn't care. But I think it makes A, for a good stream, and B, again, this is the third or fourth time the clients come back to me. It'd be nice to just be able to run an automated script in the future to make sure that these critical features are behaving the way we expect. So anyway, let's jump in where we left off yesterday. We finished those tests, and now I was just looking at it real quick. There is a command that runs in the background. And again, this was an older Laravel project, probably around 5.6. And at that time, while jobs and queues were definitely becoming more powerful in Laravel, they were still relatively new. And the setup they required to kind of run in the background and so forth just wasn't something that was commonly set up. So this client really just simply set up a cron. And basically that cron acts like the queue worker. So I'm not going to change that. This really, I think in a modern application, this would be a job, is the point. And right now it's still a command. And again, if you're familiar with older Laravel versions, that was pretty common to put jobs in. In fact, way back in Laravel 4 and early 5, jobs and commands were the same thing. So anyway, a little backstory there on why this is a command and not a job. I think if this were a brand new Laravel application I was setting up and I had control over the infrastructure, this would definitely be a job. But this command runs through a cron every few minutes and basically checks to see if any of those archives that were created by that HTML page or web form that we tested in the last stream. It goes and sees if there's any that are unprocessed, and if so, it processes those packages, puts them in a zip archive, sets them up for this little downloadable format that the client uses to feed into their internal printer or something. It's basically just a CSV file, so nothing really fancy here. It just gives them kind of a zipped up archive that they can then load into their badge printer, and it does the rest. So a way to kind of digitize what used to be kind of an analog process or a manually fed into the system process. So that's kind of neat, and again, that's the kind of critical feature of this application. So let's write a test for this. I'm going to go ahead and let's see. We actually do have a test for this, I think. Okay, so when we ran the test generator a couple streams ago, it generated this simple little test for us, some placeholders, and it's got this PBG process thing, assert exit code 0, and that it ran. And then we would also want to make sure that it did some stuff. Now, I think we'll find that as we start to test this, some of the things I kind of griped about yesterday, some of the rabbit holes I went down yesterday, we're going to see that this becomes pretty hard to test. It makes a zip archive, it puts that zip archive out somewhere on the system. It may or may not be using the storage facade, so it's going to be a little bit hard to kind of fully test this the way we want. So let's see how far we can get, and when I bump up against some refactoring, again, we'll see how much effort that takes to kind of clean up. So I think the simplest thing we can do is we could really just ignore all the storage path stuff for now. It is using the storage facade, and I think the zip archive is what adds to it, and then it just calls zip close. So it's using storage paths, but it's putting it out on the system, somewhere through the zip archive. It's not necessarily saving that zip through the storage facade. So again, I don't think we're really going to be able to stop this zip archive from being created, so to speak. So I think we're going to have to come up with an approach there. What we can do as a first pass, though, is we can make sure that it doesn't run at first when there's no archives, and then it does run, and we can make sure that the data is saved. And again, we've got this raw pusher thing here. Again, broadcasting wasn't necessarily available way back in 5.4, so there's a lot of opportunities here to kind of modernize this, and I think we'll see that as we start to test. So let's just do a simple pass here. So it does nothing when there are no archives. So we can simply do something like this, and really this just kind of runs out of the box. That's a little bit silly, but it does. So we'll say vendor bin PHP unit, and this should just pass again because there's nothing set up, there's nothing that it does. There's really no way to assert the negative here other than the fact that it just didn't fail. The only thing we could do is like ensure that log was never called. I don't think there's like a log fake, so we could say like log fake. I think you can log spy. I don't think you can log fake. Yeah, you can log spy. So we could say something like log should not, or expects. I think you should be able to say like should not receive or should not have been called. I think this log spy gives you back log. And you should be able to say something like log should not have been called. There we go. I think we can do this. Yeah, there we go. So if I did, for example, take this and put it up here, I would expect this to fail. And it does. Undefined variable archive. That's not a good failure. Let's pop that out for a second. See, it still passes. I don't think the spies on that are actually set up the way they would if you did like a raw mockery spy. See, I would have expected that to fail. Were we actually getting there? I don't want to go too far down a rabbit hole, but I'm just a little curious. We are actually getting in here. Yeah, we're getting in there. So it's strange that that passed because we said log should not have been called, and it was called. So that's kind of strange. So it's not really helping us to spy on this log. And again, if we look underneath static, tap class, mockery spy, otherwise a spy, again, it should make a spy. This doesn't return anything, it looks like. Oh no, it returns the swapping of the actual spy. Okay. Yeah, that's interesting. So it should return the mockery spy from that. Yeah, that's strange. Anyway, we'll let it carry on. I mean, it passes, so it's fine. So let's do the same thing, and let's try to see if we can get this to actually save. So we'll say it, so it processes the latest, or the first, I guess, archive. So I'm kind of being specific about that because we basically want to create two archives. So we want to say archive is badge request archive factory. It's unprocessed by default. We don't need to do anything here other than create. And then we would make another one of these. And in fact, I would probably make yet another one that was processed. And again, we could do this even first. So this one's unprocessed, but it's not the first. We created this one first. And if we look at our code, the reason I'm kind of setting it up that way is it pulls first, and they should be in just normal ID order, so ascending. So we should get the earliest one that was created here, which would be this one, and not this one. So I'll leave this log spy. We'll see if we can actually kind of get it to work. We really actually don't need to store it this time. We could just say log expects, info and with something, whatever we said, processing, archive, number, whatever, one, whatever that is. We'll fill that in here in a second. And then the most important thing though is that if we do archive refresh, we would expect simply, again, we can tighten this up, but we would expect simply that assert not null on archive processed at, and we can even go so far as to say this assert true for archive. We did this yesterday, but it's just a nice way to kind of leverage and test the model through the rest of your code. So a badge request archive has this little processed bool here. I'll go ahead and add the type hint. So yeah, that should come back across. Okay, let's see if this runs. I don't think it will because we don't have zip archive. We don't have all this other stuff. That's probably just gonna crap out. So, okay, undefined property, badge request archive processed. I think we saw this yesterday. I think I called something the wrong name. Oh, processed. There we go. Okay, failed to call trigger on null. Process badge request archive 74. Okay, I think trigger is down here in this pusher stuff. Yes, okay. Pusher actually wasn't created, so let's just comment that out for now. Okay, method info processed archive number 1 should be called exactly 1 times called 0. That's because the name is wrong. So we should say something like process badge request archive. And I think that's 2, but I'm just going to go ahead and say archive ID. Okay, processing badge request number 8 should have been called. Okay, so what is called log info processing badge request archive? Let's just dump out this same thing and we'll just see what it's actually outputting. Processing badge archive number 9, but it really processed, in ours it's claiming to process 11. Okay, so it's pulling the wrong one. That's strange. This is at the bottom. This already passed. So archive, why is this backwards? Let's find out. It seems like it's acting like it's pulling the wrong one. So unprocessed first, that's just a scope, unless our scope's wrong. So let's just dump archive ID. And let's go back to ours and do the same thing. I'm feeling like these are not what we think they are. Yeah. It's doing 12 in our command. And then badge request archive 37 is saying 12. That's good. Is this running twice? What's going on here? It processed. Let's do this. Let's just filter down because we got that other test running. This shouldn't be output twice. Okay. So in our test, we have 17, but in the archive, we have 15. So it's pulling the wrong one. That's strange that it's pulling the wrong one and that the failure is here and not here because our archive should be this one. So how's that one getting set? That's strange. Badge request archive ID, process badge request test. So 38 here is saying 17. Which one of these guys is 17? Which one are you, 17? Let's make sure our scopes are good. We should just have a little scope here. Unprocessed, where null, processed at. Scoped, processed, where processed. Okay, so that should be fine. That would be a pretty obvious thing if that was broken. I think you'd see that in the UI pretty obviously. Okay, let's do, what are we missing here? Failed asserting that null is not null. Okay, so that seems like a more legitimate failure. Why would these two be backwards? Unprocessed. Are these not returning the way we expect? let's do this. We can do like latest or recent. I forgot what they call it. Query latest, earliest, no, recent. There's latest, and what's the other one? What's the opposite of latest? I can't remember. Earliest, latest, earliest, latest. Let's go see. What does latest do? Latest, oldest. Oldest and latest. That seems strange. Is that the combo? Oldest and latest? Query latest, query oldest. We want the oldest is what we're expecting. Let's go back here. Oldest. That's still not fixing it. Let's do this. We'll do order by ID. That still doesn't fix it either. All right, so something, which one of these is 18? I'm gonna assume it's this one. This is why I wanted to set my test up this way, because this is not behaving the way I would have expected. So 26, 27, and 20 is what it's actually pulling in, which is this one is my, maybe my factory wasn't set up all along. 28, 29, 30, and 21. It's pulling 20. Where is 21 coming from? Am I crazy? Where is 20? Do we have stuff in our seeder? Database seeder. There is no badge request archive here. Oh, that's fun. The database isn't getting refreshed. Okay, there we go. That feels better. Wow, look at that. That's funny that it didn't that's funny that it didn't explode. But here's why. My test, let's check this out. PHP unit. Yeah, there you go. That's why. Never uncommented these. So it was just using my local SQLite dev database for testing because that's what the default is. So let's pull this out so it actually uses a memory database. And let me pull this off to show what I would have expected. So if we did this, I would expect a much larger error immediate notification that no tables existed. But it was just passing through to my dev database and there were records in there. So that's interesting. Okay. Yeah, little caveat there, make sure don't blow away your dev database. We never actually set that up. Okay, so I think we can get rid of all these dumps now. It is behaving the way I would have expected. It's just that we weren't using the right database. So let's bring this all back. Let's get rid of all our debugging. We should be able to go back here and get rid of our order by. None of that should be needed because again, it should just behave that way normally. Okay, so we're processing two. Method info should be called one time, but not. Okay, so we are pulling 2 and 2. We're dumping out badge, processing badge archive number 2. I think this log just doesn't, I don't think this log facade is doing what we expect. Did I even import the right log? I did. Yeah, that's strange. This just doesn't work the way I think it's supposed to. I think this expectation needs to be higher. I think when you expect, you turn it into an actual mock. There we go. I had the expectation too low. I was treating it like a SPY and then asserting after the test ran. But when you set an expectation, it needs to be set before the test is run. So a couple little problems there. All right, let's recap. We have our different badge request archives that we set up here. I wanted to set them up in this order to demonstrate that it's not picking up a processed one already, but it's also pulling the oldest one based on Laravel's terminology that we created. And it was doing that all along, but the problem was that we had older ones in the system because it was actually using the dev database and not ours. So we uncommented this to get that to kind of use the in-memory one, which is the normal one to use. That wasn't necessarily uncommented for us, and because the application uses SQLite locally, it was just humming along with no problem, even though I didn't have this particular trait. And then the final thing, again, we actually wrote this correctly the very first time. It was just this log expects was in the wrong spot. So this is running. There's not anything wrong with it, but we're definitely missing very large pieces that are critical pieces of the test. So I think let's figure out how we can do kind of a better job of testing those. So we should be able to get rid of those. We need to set up, what I now want to test is kind of this middle section. We've really skipped over pretty much this whole piece. This whole piece where we make a zip archive and we store it on the system with a very particular CSV inside of the archive. We're not doing any of that right now. So there's a couple options. This uses storage path, and this uses storage path, which means we could use the storage facade, or we are using storage facade. We could use the storage fake to control where this zip file gets output, and then we could, in our test, we could unzip it and test, what's in there. That would be one option. The other option, we talked about this yesterday, but that's a little bit integration-y. I think it's nice because it tests, it tests it fully. That would be a full test, that it was zipped up and everything. It was very integration, but that potentially requires like a lot of setup, and it gets a little bit nuanced into like knowing that it was a zip archive. So I feel like the other option is that we use the storage facade, but maybe we wrap up this whole zip archive integration in a little helper, a little service class, and push it to the boundary is what that's called, or what I've learned it as. We could push this zip archive, this hard piece to test, kind of down the line a bit, and then we test that we call it with the archive. It's not fully solving the problem because theoretically we would still need to test that service class actually makes a zip archive, but because it's in isolation, it would be a lot easier to test. We don't necessarily have to deal with all the moving parts here in the console, so it makes the tests easier, right? It's kind of the classic, if you come across a hard change, make the hard change easy, then make the easy change, right? I think that was Fowler or Beck, but like basically make the change easy. So that would be an option. We could push it to the boundary. We still have to write the two tests. I think I may do that as a refactor, but I think to stick with the hard for a second, let's see how far we can get with this storage facade. Let's just take like 10 more minutes and we'll see if we can figure out that particular piece. So we can do storage fake, and then we should be able to bring this in, and I think you can now say something like storage. I think you can say assert exists, and you pass it a path. And in this case, we would pass it this path. So we could definitely do this again at a pretty high level, right? So we should be able to say this, and I would expect it to still pass, right? Because that file should exist. If we change this to like badges, then I would expect a failure. And it does, because that particular link that is. So a real simple, quick approach with the storage facade would simply just be, did it make that particular file? And it did. It saved that file the way we had expected. Now we could go even farther and we could go unzip that and see what the contents are, right? So if we really cared, we could now probably use, zip. We could do the same thing. We could say, new zip archive. And I think you're able to pass this. Let's go find out. I always forget, do you call import or add? Let's go find out. So PHP zip archive. Haven't used this in a long time. Looks like it's got an open command. Whoa. Where is open? Import, unzip, extract to. Here we go. What does extract to do? Path to. Location of where to extract the files. The entries to extract. It accepts either a single entry or an array of names. All right. So new zip archive, open this, extract to that, and close it. You could extract very particular entries. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so what we would do is we would do that. We would open this, well, storage that, right? Storage path that. Let's see if this works. And then what can we do? Let's just see if we can get some information about it. Is it like a count that I saw, I think? Yeah, what's count do? Counts the number of files in the archive. Okay, cool. Let's just do this for now. We'll just do this assert same to on zip count. All right, so we're going to load up a zip archive at that storage path that we expect, and we would think that it's the same as 2. Okay, failed asserting that 1 is identical to 2. So it probably made our CSV file, but it didn't actually put any badges in it, which demonstrates another kind of way in which this test doesn't really do the best job. So I think what we want to do next is we actually want to make a badge request factory, and we would create that, and we want to get pretty specific here actually. So we want to say a couple things. We would want to say that its archive ID is archive ID. We want to do that first. So now it's going to pick that up. And then the next thing we would want to do is we would actually want to give this an image file so it can pull that across the system. So let's see, it can put that in the zip archive. So let's see here. We have storage path badge request photo, and it's named the photo name. So here we take the base name of photo. So here we would give this photo, and this needs to be a storage path for that particular file, which would mean I think we would want to fake this higher up. So let's do that. So it's all faked way up here, because we're actually going to make a file that this needs to pull across. I think, can you make a fake file? File, fake, I thought you could make, I thought the storage facade gave you a quick way to make like a fake file. I feel like they do. I just don't know what it is off the top of my head. Maybe it's the build. I don't know. I know Faker does. I know Faker, you can make a fake image file real quick. With Faker, let's bring across image. Yeah, here we go. So image, and I think you can pass it. I think you can tell it where to save. Let's look at the actual docs. Faker PHP image. Faker PHP image. There we go. Okay, image URL. Nope, it's an actual image. I think it's under file. Nope. Nope. Maybe it is under image. Here we go, image. Get a random image from placeholder.com and download it to directory. The full path of the image is returned as a string. Okay, cool. we can set the directory, and it's going to download an actual image. All right, cool. So we would want to set this directory to what? Where do these get stored? Storage path, they just get stored wherever this thing says to pull from. Okay. So I should be able to just say storage path. So it just gets the default path. You don't have to tell it which one, right? Yeah, I don't think so. Or wait, maybe you do. String path. I would have to pass it like an empty string, maybe? I don't know. Just top level. Let's find out. Why not, right? Okay, so what would we want? We probably want to save this. So let's just call this the badge. And right now I'm just gonna dump badge photo. Let's see what's going on here. Okay, zip archive, add file, no such file or directory. Okay, so it put it in projects like storage framework, test, dis, local, // It's not ideal. So does this have to exist? What if I said something like badges? Could not write to directory because it doesn't exist. Okay. And it doesn't seem like we're able to pass it an empty string because it puts on a //, so that's kind of lame. Yeah, and I don't think you can pass it null. It doesn't like that either. Do I have any directories that exist? This just goes to the default location. Path, dir, can you get directory? Don't want all directories. I don't really want to make a directory. Guess I could. I would have expected it to pull that a little bit better. Let's just make a directory, it doesn't matter. Storage, make directory, badges. All right, let's see if that helps. Okay, so local disk, local badges, let's see if this is still here. So we'll say ls, it is, okay. So now add file, no such file or directory. So what's getting stored? It processes the first archive, archive 64. Let's see what it doesn't like about this. Archive 64. Is it tempting? Oh. Yeah, see, it just gets stored in storage path. That's not actually, storage path is, yeah. We just put it in the top level. It's not underneath anything. So it's doing storage path. So we're not saving this correctly. We can't put it in this dir. It's like we need to put it wherever, just let it get put in the temp directory, and then we would need to move it to storage. I guess we could do it that way. Yeah, it's a little bit ugly. Let's do this. Let's pull this out. Let's say image, so the image is that. Let's dump image, which is going to be like we saw, it's going to be like temp, whatever. This just needs to be base name of image. Whoops. All right, let's see where we're going here. Whoops. Okay, it goes to var folders, whatever, gets put out there. We would want to then move this file to our storage path. So now we don't want to make this directory anymore, but we do want to say storage move. Is there like a move? Yeah, there is. Great. See, We don't have access to storage path though. That's so annoying. How can you? Do you just say storage path? Do you say base path? How do you get this? How do you get the storage path? This seems silly that I have to move it around. Let's go read in storage for a second. This is strange. There's got to be something like base dir or something. This doesn't make any sense. How come you can't just get path? What does path actually do? Let's find out. Oh, PHP Storm, I hate you. Just jump here. Here we go. Oh, you're gonna have to go. Gonna have to get real deep in here to figure out paths. How do you just get the base path? If anybody knows in chat, let me know. But I just want to get the base path of like the storage. Storage, base path, directory, disk, path, base path. What's here? Move, put. Where's just, how do you just get, can you just get the path? Do I have to pass a string? Is it optional? Get the contents of the file. Nope, I don't want that. Get the full path to the file that exists. All right, here, let's go down. Prefix path. Get the full path. Prefix ltrim. What is this even doing? I just want the directory name. This is annoying. What happens when you just say storage path? I'm curious if you just say like storage path. What do you get? So you just get storage. That's not helpful. How do you get... I want to store this image in the testing folder, but I don't know what that folder is. Maybe the docs have something. I doubt it. I feel like this should be easier. There should be like a full path or something. There has to be. Storage, full path, nothing. How can you not determine the storage directory? I gotta be going about that wrong. Storage. All right, local driver, disk local, put. How do you just get, just give me the path. Driver prerequisite, I don't need all that. Scoped, don't need all that. Is there like testing somewhere? There we go, testing directories. Storage files, directory, okay. Get all directories, nope. Create a directory, nope. Testing. Yep, there's testing. Okay, there is, you can do an uploaded file fake. Okay, that's fair. Custom file systems. I guess it wasn't hurting it when I basically just said storage path slash. I'm still curious what you get out though. Oh, that passed. That's interesting. I'm still curious what dump, does this give you the right path now? Yeah, see, it still has those two slashes. It's a little bit strange. I feel like there's a way, there should be a way in which you can pass this, you know, nothing and not have the two slashes. And it's working because just file systems don't care, but like, I don't know. It feels a little strange. It didn't feel very like, didn't feel like the very Laravel DX there. I would have thought I could just pass path, or there's some kind of way to say like full path or, you know, base path or something. I don't know the right name for that, but it's a little weird that I have to like hack this with weird strings to get it to save in the top level storage path. Maybe everybody just saves under a base directory, I don't know. But again, old app. So, okay, this works because we are pulling both of those out. So now the next step, and I think we'll stop here in a second, but I think the next step would be to say zip extract to, and we're going to do the same dance here, where we would extract to our storage path, and then our expectation would be that like storage assert exists, and then whatever our little badge request name is, this data txt. So we would assert that data txt exists, and then we would assert that this badge photo existed. That's where badge comes back into play. The problem is we would really want to extract this to like zip, like something else, like zip archive. And then we would say zip archive data exists and zip archive badge photo exists, because otherwise the badge photo is always going to exist because the same name's there. So let's see if this works. It claims that it does. Amazing. Okay. And then just for giggles, let's dump storage get this. Hey, there we go. There's our little badge for Ted Larkin. Cool. Okay, so yeah, let's recap here for a second. Okay, we move the storage fake up to the very top so we can make sure that as we're using the storage facade in our test, it's always going to point to the same place. If I didn't do that, this path would actually be the true apps path. We don't want to put our faker image there. So we make our little image. We make a badge. We have this old, so we set up all of our fake data. We talked about this already, but now we're making a badge that has been assigned to that archive with a particular image, that image that truly exists on the file system. From there, we finish our log exploitation, no big deal. We actually call the command. We make sure that the data got saved correctly. We make sure that the badge zip is named for that archive. And then we get kind of low level here. Again, this is the part that could get broken out to another class now that we've written it, but we were going to have to write it either way, whether we wrote it for the service class test or we wrote it for the console test. We still need to write this code, so I think it was fine to kind of explore if this worked. It just took a second to figure out the right paths that we could use here. So we make a zip archive, we pull that same one that we assert as exist, we make sure that it has two things in it, the data txt file for the printer and the badge image itself. And then we extract it to a separate path to make sure that we don't conflict with the same image name. And then in that extracted archive, let's fix that. We'll say extracted archive. We have that data txt file, and then we have that same badge photo. And now I could go so far as to say the data txt file contains this format of pipe delimited, CSV file kind of thing of the badge information that we created up here. So, and again, that would be pretty easy to do. I'm not going to do that necessarily on the stream because it's just kind of tedious, and I still think there's an opportunity to break this code out a little bit better. To that point, let's go back real quick before we end and just mention this last bit here. I've commented out pusher. We ran into that error earlier. I think what could really happen here is pusher could go away. I don't need to do pusher at a low level anymore. I could really just fire an event, or I could broadcast an event. So I think you can just say broadcast event, and we could just kind of take all this same stuff here, and we could broadcast an event with, the same information down here. I think this would be the new way to do it, and the driver for the broadcast driver would just be pusher. So instead of me newing up pusher stuff and using it directly, I would just pass, an event name or whatever with the right data or the new event. So So again, this is just quick pseudocode. That's not exactly how you would write that, but I need to go make an event class for this archive request, completed, and we would fire it off that way. So yeah, so I think that works out pretty well. It's just a matter of kind of, again, taking this zip archive. Does it live here, or do we pass this down to kind of a service class to make our test here a little bit easier, that it did or didn't call the creation of the zip archive. So I think that's maybe something I'll do. I'm not too sure, but I'll do it off stream because I think we kind of beat this. This test definitely works. But again, in the real world, when you started getting into those hairy places with like extracting the zip and stuff, it probably just doesn't belong here. Probably belongs somewhere else. So I'll put it there off stream. All right, tomorrow we'll finish up all the streams, or we'll finish up this series of streams for upgrading this. I'm just going to add CI. I'm going to use the CI generator to do that, and we'll get that set up through GitHub Actions. And that way it runs our tests, it runs Pint, it does these things, checks for lint, just some basic stuff. Again, that way I know when I'm pushing at least these few tests that we have written for the critical features of the application, we can prove that they're passing. I can also use that CI to test 8.4 upcoming release, things like that. So maybe I can get ahead of their IT department, moving and staying up to date, maybe more consistently. So anyway, thanks everybody for joining live. We are done with these deep tests now. We'll get back into quicker stuff tomorrow. See you.